So many twists and turns. We've been telling our fabulous 50 summer stories of Pittsburgh tech. This is Jonathan Kirstang hanging out with Comcast to bring you these stories. We're getting late into the summer, but the stories, they just keep getting better and better, and they're getting more and more tied into the community, which has me so excited. And today I have the honor and privilege of talking to Rabbi Yossi Rosenblum from Yeshiva, starting there as the new CEO beginning September 1. So cool to hear about how they're using technology and tradition to educate children and get them up to speed with all things tech. Rabbi, so excited to talk to you today. Thanks for taking the time. It is such an honor to talk to you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that to share our story.
Absolutely. See, I get really pumped up because I love it when I see tech, being embraced, with faith and with, children and education, because it all kind of brings life together in a certain sort of way. Just everything can kind of bolster everything up and make it better. And I think that's the case with Yeshiva, which is this really great school in Squirrel Hill. I mean, it's really foundational to the community. One of the pieces of bedrock in Squirrel Hill there as far as that goes. And so exciting that you'll be the new CEO September 1, so just a few more days.
It's a great time to be a CEO, huh?
I was going to say, man, what did you walk into? It's crazy, as we were talking before, but I know you guys have this thing under control. And yeah.
Well, we have under control everything that we can have under control. And for the rest, we rely on God. The situation is very fluid, as it is for everybody, but we're trying to stay calm and forward-looking.
Absolutely. I think that's a great attitude to take, and that's going to take you very far. So before we kind of kick things off, you got such a cool background. You've been part of some really cool things within education. Tell us about yourself, Rabbi.
So first of all, I born in Pittsburgh, born in Squirrel Hill.
All right, my hometown too.
I actually attended Yeshiva Schools as a student. I'm a graduate of Yeshiva Schools of Pittsburgh.
Very cool.
It was much smaller back then, smaller classes. We were located on Fifth Avenue. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in this community. Went on to New York. Spent some time in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Wow.
And actually spent some time in the former Soviet Union before they opened up and taught some of the refuseniks, they were called, underground.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
These were individuals who had applied to leave Russia, the former Soviet Union, to Israel or to the United States. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't appropriate for them. So they lost their jobs and everything. They were trying to keep the spark of Judaism alive there. And I went and spent a month there teaching and interacting with them. And yes, I've been around here and there.
I mean, talk about some perspective to be part of something like that. That is just amazing. That's just got to give you some insight that you're just not going to get anyplace else.
Yeah, definitely. It was an experience that I reflect back on regularly. And I tell my kids and I tell the students in school stories from my experiences. They were actually arrested, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's not part of today's schedule. Today's story, but for another time. But
absolutely,
because we were interacting with these refuseniks and teaching and things of that nature, they weren't happy with us being there at the time. But
I believe it. No, like I said, that's some good work going on right there. So awesome. Level set with us on Yeshiva and what it's up to. So I know it's grown quite a bit, and give us kind of the overview, the nickel tour, if you could, and then we'll kind of jump into your new leadership there.
Yes, Yeshiva's been in business for 75 years. Presently, we have actually 2, but for COVID, we have 3 buildings in Squirrel Hill, K through preschool, actually 2-year-olds through high school, boys school, and a girls school separate. We have a total of 450 children in our schools. Like I said, traditionally we're in 2 schools. This year we had to expand to 3rd school. We felt it was safer, and we were able to protect the children and ensure that the state guidelines were able to be kept in place as far as distancing and things of that nature. We have a dual curriculum. We have a general studies curriculum, English, math, science, social studies. In fact, we just got accredited by Middle States last year. Our elementary school was just accredited last year. Went through the accreditation process. So our regular general studies are similar to what you'd find in any school, any quality school. And in addition, we have our Judaic part of the day, where we study Bible, Talmud, which is Jewish law, philosophy, and they're blended into one. It's a
Right.
fascinating program. It's a long schedule for the students. But
Yeah, but I just think how
in a
fundamental that is, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're just getting such a solid education and you're getting that grounded in religion. And I just think that's so cool. And you're doing that obviously right there in the heart of Squirrel Hill as far as that goes. And 450 students.
450
That's a
students.
lot of children right there. That's very cool.
Each one is entrusted to us by God.
Absolutely.
Each one is important, and we strive to make each one of them successful. I use the word strive because it's
Ongoing. Absolutely.
It's ongoing, and we have to be reflective regularly. But talking about steeped in tradition and Judaic, I shared with the students that I pulled up a book it was written of Jewish law over 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about living through a pandemic, and the rabbi writes there that in Hebrew, of course, that you shouldn't leave your house, but if you do leave your house, make sure to use a piece of cloth and cover your mouth and nose. I talked to them about the fact that masks aren't new.
No.
that respond to a pandemic is steeped in our tradition. It's actually well before 100 years ago, but I just shared this one source.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
See that this is not something that's new.
Absolutely. So tell me, what was it that attracted you to say you want to take on the helm here of Yeshiva? That's quite the responsibility. I'm assuming you didn't take lightly. I'm assuming.
Yeah, Yeshiva Schools just went through a process of strategic planning. It was named Syntagma, which means standing together. Over 100 parents participated with our administration and our staff under the guidance of Dr. George Szymanski, who does this work, former superintendent here in Pittsburgh. And he led us through a process over a year, and we identified 109, I think, action plans to plan and to plot the yeshiva of the future.
Okay.
And as part of that process, I think the idea that I would serve in the capacity of CEO came into being, and Rabbi Rosenfeld, who had run the school for many years, asked me if I would do that. What I'm excited about is, up until now, I was involved in the educational part of things, which is my passion and my background and what I think about day and night. The ability, however, to be able to think big and to reach out to donors and to supporters of yeshiva and to sell my vision, my educational vision, sort of bring the two worlds together.
Right, exactly.
Because the business we're in is in education. So to talk about, our vision and to talk about Syntagma from the perspective of education, was important, I think. And that's what I'm excited about. Yeshiva needs to invest in providing the absolute best education that we can to our students, to prepare them, for the future.
Absolutely. So tell me about this vision. I'm just so curious. Tell me what are the main points, and I'm really curious to know how's technology going to play a role in that, especially with COVID being the way it is. You don't know when people are going to be learning from a distance, of course. So give me more, please.
Right. So just interestingly, I just knocked over my green screen. Hold on.
Wow. You can pull it right back up.
Yep.
You're back in business.
We'll make sure it doesn't fall again.
That might be our first Zoom casualty ever, so it's all good. We're glad you're in one piece.
Let me just get it there. Sorry.
Surely.
Just to talk a little bit about technology and tradition for a moment. I mentioned to you earlier that it's the best of times and the worst of times, but the best of times. The worst of times because we're living through challenging and difficult times. But it's the best of times because when we're put through a challenge, as the leader of our organization, Rabbi Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, he always told us that, he always saw opportunities for hope.
Yeah,
and,
like that.
When things seem challenging and helpless. So he always encouraged us to see the silver lining in situations which we find ourselves in. And, people, when they're in a challenging situation, they're number one, they band together, they become more creative. The challenge sort of spurs them on to do things and to come up with ideas they've never come up with before. So just to reflect a little bit about, technology for a moment, so we came up in our reopening plan, which is, 10 administrators, with various committees, lawyers and doctors and our board and parents and everything. We came up with this plan, which, 3 different plans: brick to click, click to brick, and all sorts of, starting in the building and having opportunities to bring kids in online virtually, which is, by the way we're starting. We plan on August 31st to have most of our children in one of our 3 buildings, but at the same time, we're creating Zoom rooms so students who are not comfortable joining online, joining in the building can join virtually. So this started off as sort of, the necessity, pushed us to come up with this creative idea of a hybrid of a teacher teaching in the class, but bringing kids in online. But as we move forward, I see this as being the future of education. Being able to use that hybrid plan, being able to use technology to bring more children into the classroom, possibly to bring teachers from other countries into our classroom, to have students from other countries in our classroom,
and better,
to be able to use technology to reach more children, provide better education. So what started off as a necessity has become part of the vision of the future. Cool. So we could be teaching a text that's 1,000 years old or 2,000 years old, using modern technology to sort of bring it together. We had a virtual dinner last night.
Okay.
Where we brought in a performer from Johannesburg, South Africa, who woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But at the same time, a group of our parents delivered a warm, kosher meal to the homes of all participants in this virtual dinner. So they had their meal, awesome. And they were part of the dinner. They were able to say a little, l'chaim on the wine. So, bringing 2 worlds together, steeped in tradition, but using technology to, so that's part of the vision. And I think part of the vision as well is striving for excellence. It's a religious obligation to strive for excellence.
Definitely.
Both in our general studies program and our Judaic program. We want students to be immersed and well-versed in their history and their tradition in the Bible, as well as we want to educate them so that they can provide, come up with a career and provide for their families.
I mean, you're just showing right now how you're making something very positive out of what was a very negative situation. And that to me is fantastic. And you're using technology to do that. Can you tell me more about like some of the curriculum and how you're preparing kids for careers like in technology or getting them interested in the STEAM and STEM fields and so forth?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The last few years, we created this STEM competition or STEAM competition with 2 other local Jewish day schools. This year it's going to be a little bit more complicated. We had teams actually in elementary school and middle school worked the entire year and come up with presentations, and they competed, and it was a fascinating experience for sure. As far as careers, we provide, or we strive to provide, a very, very solid general studies curriculum and education. We're looking to also include options for students to specialize or in one particular area, to give them options, particularly in the high school, middle school, and the high school, AP courses and other opportunities for them to spend more time and energy focused on one area of their education that they assume that they want to pursue. But I think it's a lot of education today is teaching children to think.
I love that. Yep.
Teaching children to ask good questions and to probe.
That's the foundation right there. You know what I'm saying? That
essential questions. Teaching children essential questions, enduring understandings, getting them to be reflective and to think about things, because we live in a fast-changing world. And what works today doesn't necessarily work for tomorrow. I think getting children to reflect on how we readjusted our school since March is really helpful to them to understand that you constantly need to reinvent yourself as life changes and technology changes and things of that nature. So these are long answers, but I hope I address your essential.
No, they're fantastic answers. Those are just the things that I love being able to hear, that this is what's going on in our community, and to know that Yeshiva is playing such a huge part in that. And you're the new leader of it right now, which I think is just so exciting. And I just think nothing but great things are going to be happening with what you're talking about. And really can't thank you enough telling me more about this and our listeners and our viewers about all of this. Because it just goes to show you, man, technology is helping everybody out. And Pittsburgh's just an awesome place. And Rabbi, you are making Pittsburgh an awesome place. It's just as simple as that. I can't thank you enough for being part of our conversation today.
Thank you. I would add that I think what's on all our minds right now and much of our discussion and professional development this week at Yeshiva is to make sure that we're taking care of the social and emotional needs of the children. Something I told our staff this morning was that, this first couple weeks of school, it's not about making up lost, work from last year. It's not about rigor this week, these next couple weeks.
Yep.
It's about ensuring that the children's social and emotional and psychological health and adults.
Everybody, we all need to kind of ramp into this thing a little bit, huh?
Taken care of, right? That's what we primarily have to focus on. And then we'll worry about the academics just a little later once the kids are comfortable and happy and in a good place.
Rabbi Rosenblum, you are the best. You're just like a blast of positive energy, just what I needed today. And I know our listeners and viewers are getting that same vibe right off of it. Thanks again for being part of our.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You do the same thing.
Okay, bye.